Hey, good day, and welcome to RFD Today. Here on a Thursday, we are looking for lots of updates from the field. We'll be talking to Country Crops' Marty McDonald as we have now passed that critical June 5 deadline or prevent plant deadline. We'll talk with Marty about all the details that farmers are dealing with here in the state of Illinois. Although we have seen a lot of corn going in the ground the last few days. We'll get a Pioneer update here in just a moment. And we'll also check in with Kelly Estes at the University of Illinois, as she is our pest coordinator for the entire state of Illinois. Kelly will be up with an update when we come back. This is RFD Today. Welcome back to RFD Today on a Thursday, checking in with Pioneer Field Agronomist Brad Mason. Basically, Brad, between the Illinois and Mississippi River, in an area of the state where you mentioned a lot of corn was planted over a short period of time.
Yeah, the corn was able to get in recently here this last week, and there was some people that were able to push ahead in that April and May time frame, get some of the crop in.
Now, the thought about soybeans, and where do we go from here? So back to the conversations. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so soybeans are their own animal. Planting this late in the year is not too unheard of. There are several people across the state that double crop soybeans into July and still have very good performance out of products. So when it comes to soybeans, there's a few things I've been talking about. The first thing is stick with the maturities. Soybeans can adapt a lot, and the light really has a lot to affect of when they senesce and mature. So definitely stick with the maturities you have at the shed or on order to make sure you're sticking with those plans. The other thing would be row spacing. Row spacing is absolutely critical to make sure we're giving the soybean crop the best advantage we can, because when it comes to light capturing, we want to make sure we get those soybeans in as narrow as row as possible as we get later in the season. So 15-inch drilled, those are the best option to make sure we're capturing as much light. It will also help with weed control later in the season, but it will give that plant that added advantage of being able to capture as much light and not compete with its neighbor in the row at near as much.
Brad, how would you leave us, I guess, best advice or takeaway for growers, after really some rough times the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it has been it's been a record-breaking year with delayed planting, rainfall, everything like that. I just encourage people to continue to try and get the crop in the ground, specifically soybeans as we get later in here. Make sure you're adjusting your populations up, and let's hope that the June and July and August time frame are favorable for us to hopefully provide some yield at the end of the day.
And again, Brad Mason, Pioneer Field Agronomist here on the RFD Radio Network. And with that, we will head down the phone lines over to the University of Illinois and say good morning to Kelly Estes. Kelly, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, when we talk about pests, it's interesting because it's sort of taken the back seat, right, to getting this crop in. So what is your big picture thought as we sit here today?
Wow, that's a really great question. As someone who grew up farming, and my parents still farm, and, when I talk to my dad and he's planting corn and soybeans right through standing water, trying to get the crop in this year, I feel for people. But professionally, I have to be like, all right, there are some crops out there, and don't forget to scout, because even though the corn and soybeans might not be there, the insect pests still are.
Mm. Yeah, so you're seeing that activity. So take us through, looking at your reports, you've been busy because the weather's been warm, the storm systems keep on coming through. So what are you seeing out there?
So as we enter this first week, or almost wrap up this first week in June, we're kind of making a little bit of transition from spring pest to summer pest. And we've been talking black cutworm and true armyworm, and they are still out there. There still can be some potential larval feeding in corn, moving from wheat fields. And now we start talking about, okay, I'm starting to get reports of bean leaf beetle feeding in emerging soybeans. I've had my first reports of corn earworm moths flying this past week. And so we start thinking about, are there any rootworms out there hatching that are going to be there to feed on any corn roots that are present?
Man, you covered a lot of ground there. So let's start with So let's start with black cutworm.
So black cutworm, we did have significant flights this spring, and later planted corn is more susceptible. Those flights have significantly dropped off. My cooperators were gracious enough to hang on an extra week just to make sure we didn't have any big late flights with these storm systems that we're moving through. And we've been pretty limited, maybe one or two moths caught in traps, or in many cases, zeros were reported in across the state. So there are still moths out there. There still could be some eggs being laid. Unfortunately, it's hard to say, well, there's significant flights, and let me project when there might be some cutting going on in those fields. So still important to look out in those fields. Black cutworm feeding, when it starts, is going to be small holes in corn. As the larvae get bigger, they obviously can cut that corn plant off at the base.
So go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I had another section, but you go, before we go on to another insect on the black cutworm, economic threshold. And, again, I get that we're talking about maybe just a few pockets of Illinois that this may apply to, but if we've got corn growing and it looks good, boy, we don't want something additional to knock it down.
Oh, boy, on the spot, I think it's 3 to 5%. I'd have to look for sure. But when you're scouting for black cutworm, you rarely see wide areas or big areas within a field. You'll see pockets. So potential spot treating is going to be an option if you do get hit with a small infestation of black cutworm.
And because of the genetics that are out there in the field, do we have rescue treatments, and what are they?
There are rescue treatments and several different insecticides labeled depending on, whether some will have a little bit more residual than others. Since I've transitioned more into a survey role, I don't deal a lot with management, and so I'm not as familiar with giving specific recommendations.
Right.
I'll gladly tell you to call Dr. Nick Sider at the university and have him give you a quick rundown on what might be best, particularly if they've been doing any efficacy trials on black cutworm.
Gotcha. And then I stopped you right as you were going to the next insect.
Armyworms, it's been a few days, or maybe a week and a half since I've heard any information on armyworms, I have heard, there are some pretty big infestations in different areas of the state, areas where there was lots of green, cover crop issues, weedy fields, and as they get done in one area, they will move into others. So as weeds are dying, corn becomes a very attractive host to feed on for those. But I'm not, like I said, I haven't heard any good reports on their activity in the last couple days.
Now, you got reports, we talk about, armyworm being, those just like you say, marching across the field. And in some cases, they may be going after the wheat crop out there. And that doesn't need any more hits either.
No, most definitely not. And wheat is a very attractive host here in the spring. And down south is where I've been hearing most about armyworms. I haven't heard any or received any reports of damage in wheat fields, not that it's not occurring. But the wet weather and heavy rains may also be playing a part in keeping some of those armyworm populations low in those areas as well.
Got about a minute left here, Kelly. What other insect is on your target list?
I'm starting to see a lot more bean leaf beetle information coming through social media channels. a lot of people are out scouting crops right now. With them being so small, lots of feeding going on. So I would definitely be keeping an eye on bean leaf beetles. And if you are in that section raising with the non-GMO crops, we have been seeing heavy pockets of corn borer the past couple of years. So I think scouting and monitoring there is going to be very important this year as well.
Well, we'll certainly dive into other reports that you've been getting in there. And just looking at some of the things that our producer Nick has printed off from your feeds, your social media outlets, you have a lot of great partners around the state. I'm picking up, good buddies of mine, Stephanie Porter with Golden Harvest now, Kelly Bassett with Pioneer. You rely on these out in the field agronomists for your reports.
Most definitely. There's one of me. I've got 6 interns, but there are so many great eyes and ears in the field, and when we share information, it just helps the group as a whole. So some of the great information that's shared on social media is so helpful in so many different ways.
We'll continue conversation with Kelly Estes from the University of Illinois, and we will also be talking about Prevent Plant, up-to-date information as we talk to the guys from Country Crop coming up here on RFD today. We'll also be visiting with Jill Johnson. She is Executive Director of the Illinois Beef Association. We'll talk about her upcoming summer conference coming up in just a couple weeks. This is RFD Today.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Daniel Grant connects rural routes for you. With more than 2 decades of reporting under his belt, Dan is the go-to source for farmers when it comes to commodities. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a grain and livestock farm near Roseville in Warren County. What I love about my job is working with people, traveling across Illinois, and visiting farms along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Attention, Illinois farmers. You won't want to miss this field day at SIU Carbondale University Farms. It's your chance to hear from industry experts about ongoing research and how it will benefit your farm. Join us on June 26th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with free lunch included. This is a joint effort of the SIU College of Agricultural Sciences, Illinois Nutrient Research and Education Council, and Illinois Farm Bureau. You must pre-register at IllinoisNREC.org and click on upcoming events.
Thanks for shopping. Please come again.
Wow, you're really getting some bargains today. Think of all the money you've saved.
I know. And even better, my purchases are helping teach kids about agriculture.
Whoa, back up. I know you got some deals today, but I don't remember that purchase.
I use my Illinois Farm Bureau Visa card. Each time it's swiped, the IAA Credit Union makes a contribution to the Illinois Agriculture in the Classroom program.
Now that's a great deal. What else does your card do?
It's what it doesn't do. Charge me extra fees, have surprise rate jumps. Not with this card. I use it for all of my purchases.
I like the sound of that. Tell me, exactly what does Illinois Agriculture in the Classroom do?
They teach kids where their food really comes from. Just by using my card, I help provide teachers and volunteers with free materials so they can spread the message of the importance of agriculture in their classrooms.
You know, the IFB Visa card may be the best bargain yet. I'm going to get one of those for myself.
Get a great card, help a great cause. Go to IAAFoundation.org and click on the IFB Visa card to get one of your own.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
We're back here on RFD today on the 6th day of June 2019. Things look different out in the fields, up and down the highways and byways of this great state with the late planting, and thus a different set of circumstances facing all who are scouting those fields. Kelly Estes is our guest today. She is a pest survey pest coordinator for the state. And you mentioned before the break about your partners, your interns this summer. Talk a little bit about that crew.
What a crew they are. I'll just say that. No. I've got actually a really great crew this year, a couple returnees, and that's always good to have people that have worked with me before and several new ones. And college kids are the best to work with. They bring such a fresh look and some recent information they've gathered from classes, and they're willing to do whatever I ask of them. So I have several students. One's started his grad school career at ISU in ag business, and another one headed to ISU in ag business this fall, and a natural resources recent graduate and future ag teacher, and one who's looking at a job studying and working with drones in agriculture. So lots of diversity, and bring a refreshing view, I guess, to the lab this summer.
So as you work as a team and give them instruction on what to scout for and look for, what are you talking about?
So we have several different surveys going on, and right now we, of course, have our field crop surveys, and we'll be doing our statewide area survey where we cover counties from north to south and east to west, and that's where we get a lot of our base information on insect populations here in July that will carry forward through the winter to help give us an idea of what we have going into the 2020 growing season. But on a day-to-day basis, we're working with cooperators around the state doing corn and soybean surveys for potential invasives or new insect pests coming to Illinois, either from around the world or even from other states, things like new stink bugs coming up from the south, or anything that may be coming from the west, like the soybean gall midge. We'll be surveying for that this summer. And then we take a 180, and we're working with a lot of our orchard growers around the state, doing some survey work with them as well.
All of the things that you find and your reports, how do folks get a hold of those and that information?
In today's day, it's actually difficult because we have people getting information from so many different sources. So the IPM bulletin through the university is a good option. We also contribute to the University of Illinois Home Yard and Garden News. If you're just a homeowner and interested in pests around the yard, we work with the Illinois Extension on the Illinois Fruit and Vegetable News. So if you are have a backyard orchard or a big commercial orchard, that's a great avenue as well to look for news in that area. Of course, social media, radio. We'll be working with Nick Sider and then Nathan with plant pathology, and we'll have a report coming out at the end of the year summarizing all of their research results and our survey work. And we're looking at that to be a new yearly thing, and that will come out, I believe, in print and online. So we're working hard to reach people through different methods.
So in the first segment, we talked a lot about what you've seen, reports coming in, even though a lot of the state is yet to be planted or at least emerged on this season. And we talked about your intern project. We have a couple minutes left. So your summary, takeaway, and really advice for scouting the next week to 10 days.
Well, I know right now our focus is on getting crop in the field, and that is definitely the highest priority right now. But we can't forget the crops that are still out there. So scouting them, looking at them is going to be important too. As we come into these summer months, insects will start to become more active. Just keep that at the forefront of your mind as well. look for things like bean leaf beetles. Corn borers will become active. Stalk borers is not something that gathers a lot of attention, but something to keep in mind as well. And, of course, everyone's always thinking about rootworms and what is that population going to be like after such a wet spring and dealing with these saturated soils.
And we talked to, our meteorologist earlier this week, Dan Hicks, and we said, so for a year like this, we're all venturing into territory we've never been in before. So as a researcher like yourself, is this challenging, exciting? How do you term this year, this growing season so far?
This has been a very challenging year. We generally have traps out mid-May, and so I feel kind of bad, actually. We're trying to find cooperators, and I definitely don't want to bug producers that are trying to get a crop in the ground, but you're trying to feel your way around, trying to find locations that are going to work, just trying to figure out, okay, who's been in the field, who's still in the field, how can I help them if I can? So definitely a challenge, but I guess that does make the job a little bit more exciting, if you will, even if it's not exciting in a good way. But we'll take what we get and work with what we have, and I'm sure we'll still get good information this year.
Kelly, thank you so much. Have a good summer. Kelly Estes, U of I, Pest Survey Coordinator. We'll be back with more RFD today. More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
RFD Radio Network's DeLoss Yankee connects rural routes for you. DeLoss delivers essential farm and food-related news to our listeners. His witty voice has been heard on the air for more than 2 decades. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
Growing up on a farm prepared me for my career. I try to know a little about a lot of things and let the people I interview be the experts. I've always wanted to be on the radio. I'm just happy to do what I enjoy.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
The Illinois economy runs on our homegrown agricultural products. Our dairy, beef, pork, corn, and soybeans grow the agricultural industry by nearly $20 billion each year. But we don't just grow Illinois, we grow North America. Canada and Mexico account for over $45 billion in U.S. agricultural exports, and they support more than 1 million American jobs. Exports to Canada and Mexico matter to everyone in the agriculture and food industries.
A message from Illinois farmers and their checkoff programs.
Are you preparing for planting season? We don't mean to be a pest, but here's a few things you need to know before you grow. The Illinois Department of Agriculture now requires special local needs labels, including new restrictions for the use of herbicide dicamba on top of soybeans in Illinois for the 2019 growing season. Did you know these additional restrictions go beyond federally approved labels? Remember, the label is the law. To find out more about these Illinois-specific labels, visit ilfb.org/label-aware.
Spring is here and things are buzzing. Farmers and pollinators are working together to help feed us. In fact, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat exists because of bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and other insects. Pollinators are important to our food system and the ecosystem overall. That's why farmers and those in the agricultural industry are working together to protect pollinators through education, research, and conservation efforts. Visit ilagformonarchs.org to join the buzz. That's ilagformonarchs.org.
All ag.
All Illinois.
All now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
What's the excitement about buying a brand new car when you pay full price for it? County Farm Bureau members have a reason to be excited. A Farm Bureau membership gives you 2 car purchase discounts. When members buy a new Ford vehicle, they receive $500 off their purchase. And with a purchase of a qualifying Lincoln vehicle, they receive $750 off. Everyone loves a good deal, and the money saved is worth the price of our annual membership. This is just one of our 300,000 plus discounts that are always changing to fit our members' needs. Not a Farm Bureau member? Visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
We're back here on RFD today on the 6th day of June. Rita Frazier along with Farm Week's Dan Grant as we visit with Marty McDonald, Country Crop Field Advisor. Official title, Marty, you say is Senior Crop Office Field Claims Adjuster, and you're really new to the scene.
Well, I've been in the industry since 1985, but we haven't had anything happen like this with prevented planting ever. So we're talking about a new situation for everybody.
We mentioned that here just a few days ago, really, a successful webinar as you tried to explain to farmers everything they need to know given this historic planting season. Yes, we had a webinar to get some information out there as much as we could. And we're going to have another one here on Thursday, June 3rd at 1 o'clock. These are going to be put out through the Illinois Farm Bureau. It's going to have some information that what we're going to talk about is late planting period for corn. We're going to talk about some soybeans and final plant dates, fail crop, current weather situations around the state, market facilitation, and federal disaster assistance program. So as of yesterday, when, the day came and went, so June 5th, an important day for Illinois. Yes, June 5th is the final plant date for corn in all but the 7 southernmost counties in the state. Now, don't get hung up on the word final, because that doesn't mean that you can't still plant corn after that date and have it insured. Final planting date means that is the last day that you can get 100% of your crop insurance guarantee. Any corn planted after June 5th is going to be subject to a 1% per day reduction in guarantee, and that can go on for 20 days. Corn has a late planting period of 20 days, and within that 20-day period, you lose 1% a day. But I don't want people to get hung up on the word final, thinking that yesterday was the last day you could plant corn in Illinois and have it insured. So let's just take a couple of scenarios. So if an Illinois farmer in central Illinois got his corn in the ground, say today, tomorrow, can he still then take full advantage of the crop insurance portion and his market facilitation payments that he might be eligible for? The crop insurance, definitely. It's only going to be a 1% reduction for each day that it's planted. So anybody out there planting corn today, your guarantee is 99% of what it would have been if you were planting yesterday. Okay. And the market facilitation payments are just kind of, how do you figure that in to the conversation? The market facilitation is still kind of fuzzy, unclear. We've been telling people to contact the FSA office because it's a program run through them. We are insurance. We are not FSA. We like to stick to our business that we know how to do. We don't want to give anybody any information that's incorrect, but the two are going to go hand in hand. And I think there will be more accurate, more up-to-date information about that in our webinar next Thursday. Yeah, and really the take-home, as on that webinar, you and Doug Yoder sort of underlined for us, really the key is for the market facilitation payments is farmers have to have a crop in the ground. Has to be planted, yes. Mm-hmm. Their prevented planting acres do not qualify for the program. So this first segment, your takeaway for us here, June 6th. June 6th. If it can be done, it's always a good idea to try to plant the crop. After yesterday, farmers do not have to. Up until the final plant date, you are required by the policy to do what is general to the area. Today, all bets are off. If you want to take the prevented acreage and do something else, you can. It's up to you.
There's nothing that forces you now to plant a crop after the final plant date. You can if you want to, but there's nothing that says you have to.
Now, this is mentioned, quite frequently in the webinar and all of our conversations with all of your staff and your partners in country. Any question, if you don't get it answered here or on a statewide basis, of course, contact your local crop insurance agent.
Yes, that is correct. Prevented planting is a program that is specific to each producer. It's based on their planting history, and everybody's planting history is different. So everybody could be in a different situation. What works for your neighbor might not work for you. So if you have questions about it, you need to get with your crop insurance agent and talk about what is specific to your operation.
Such great advice. And we'll continue this conversation with Marty McDonald, a senior crop office and field claims adjuster for country. And we will also take a look at the markets here when we come back. We'll also talk more about the other webinar coming up on June 13th. So again, mark your calendars for that. June 13th, 1 p.m., another webinar sponsored by Country and the Illinois Farm Bureau. You can also find out more information by contacting your local county Farm Bureau. It is Thursday, June 6th. This is RFD Today.
RFD Radio Network's Jim Taylor connects rural routes for you. You can trust Jim every morning for your overnight markets. He gets up early to help keep farmers on top of their game. Here's a bit about his rural routes.
I have the opportunity to cover something different every day and provide listeners with up-to-date markets, news they need to do their job and be successful, from legislative issues to crop updates and weather, of course.
Be it routes or routes, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Does the warmer weather have you itching for a weekend getaway? Take your Illinois Farm Bureau membership savings with you.
Farm Bureau members can save up to 20% at choice hotels, including favorites like Comfort Suites, Sleep Inn, Quality Inn and Suites, with even more to choose from.
Call 800-258-2847 or visit the Choice Hotels website to search all the hotels at once and to make advance reservations.
Contact your local county Farm Bureau for your discount code number. Take a look at your numbers. We have turned around a bit on a Thursday morning. We're still trading lower in those soybeans, but we're mixed in the corn and higher in the wheat. Nearby corn this hour up a half for July. We're at 4.15 and a quarter. September steady, 4.24 and a quarter. December corn down a quarter, 4.33 and a quarter. Out to March, we're down 3/4 at 4.41 and a quarter. July soybeans down 2 and a quarter, 8.67 and a half. August down 2 and a half. November soybeans down 3 and a quarter. We're at 8.94. July wheat Chicago up 11 3/4, 5.02 and a half. September up 9 and a half, and December up 7 and a half. We're at 5.18 and a half. Soybean meal for July down 2.30 at 3.15.40. Those are your numbers on the RFD Radio Network. We're back here on RFD Today on June the 6th in studio with Marty McDonald with Country Crop and Dan Grant, Farm Week's Dan Grant. And Dan, you've crisscrossed this state quite a lot the last few days. So all of these questions and this topic, very important to the state.
Absolutely. And that was one of my questions, Marty, is the geography of this. Talk about the claims coming in now and how that covers the state compared to what you would usually see in a normal year.
This is an unprecedented event we're having this year in 2019. Historically, prevented planting claims have been isolated to 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 counties. The southeast corner of the state, the northwest corner of the state. It's not a widespread thing like it is this year. This year we've got claims coming in from the Wisconsin border to the Ohio River. It's an entire state issue, like something we've never seen before.
Any follow-ups to that, Dan? So as we talk about it, you mentioned, so yesterday, the 5th of June, final is not final, but the deadline for corn planting is what for the most of the state?
Well, there really is the deadline for having corn planted that's insured is 20 days after yesterday. But with the deadline that we talk about a lot with prevented planting is the final date to turn in a claim. We have 72 hours after the end of the 20-day late planting period to turn in a claim. So for the majority of the state, all the counties except the 7 southernmost at the tip of southern Illinois, the final date to turn in a timely prevented planting claim is June 28th. That is very, very important. So keep that in mind. And with that, thinking on to soybeans, we're not into the soybean reporting time yet, but that would start in the northern third of the state June 16th and the southern 2/3 of the state on June 21st. It is too early right now to turn in a claim for soybeans. I'm sure there's going to be soybean prevented acreage, but federal crop rules do not allow us to take a claim when you can still plant it and get 100% of your guarantee.
One other thing, you mentioned being in the crop insurance field for many, many years. The process of filing a claim with the smartphone and with technology has changed.
Yes, it has. It's really gotten a lot easier to use information, to access information, to get information out. Producers can turn claims in over their phone. They can do it old school if they want by calling their financial representative crop insurance agent. It's technology has really changed this business since I've been in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is it blows your mind what's available and what's out there. But old school sometimes feels better.
Yes, it especially for somebody who started with the pencil and paper, and when we had carbon paper, when we needed duplications. But the technology sure expedites lots of things. And we don't have to worry about making math errors and things like that anymore.
So on to the next that you have written down there, the failed crop, back to the adjustment and so on. Go to that topic.
Another situation we've got is that crop that's already planted, some of it has failed. We look at failed acres after we look at replants. Right now, here on the 6th of June, we're still in what we call our replant window. And federal crop defines replanting as seeding back to the original crop. Corn to corn is a replant. Corn to soybeans is a failed crop. So we are bound by the policy to say that it is feasible to replant corn in the state of Illinois for 10 days after the final plant date. So we're looking at replanting corn, if feasible, up through the 15th of this month. After that, then we can assess it, appraise it, and look at failing that crop and allowing a producer to go to soybeans. But we're in our replant window right now. We've got to get through that before we start talking about going from corn into soybeans.
Now, back to, your other partners within country and technology with their drone scouting. We talked to Brad Clow here just a couple of weeks ago about what's going to be available to you guys as we get down the road this year.
The drones will be a great advantage for us. Sometimes we can't even get to the field that is prevented because of accessibility for a road, a field road, something like that. The drone will allow us to be able to go places we've never been able to go and document the claim for the producer.
Mm-hmm. One last thing here on your yellow pad, $4 corn price.
Yeah, I wrote that down while you were doing the markets there. And one thing to remember with prevented corn is the prevented corn claim payments are made on the projected spring price of corn at $4. You're locked into that $4, and you don't have any crop to market. You're locked in. If you have a revenue policy that your planted acres might get a bump and guarantee come fall, that does not happen with prevented. It stays at that projected spring price, and $4 is where you're locked in.
Dan, any follow-ups?
That was a good wrap-up to me.
Okay, and so for you, as we take everything into consideration here, Marty, what's your takeaway in the last minute?
If you think you're going to be in a prevented planting situation, there's no harm in turning a claim in right now for corn. If you turn a claim in and it ends up that you get it planted, you plant another crop in the late planting period, you plant a crop after the late planting period, then we can release the claim. There's a no harm, no foul for turning a claim in now and not going through with having the prevented planting acres. You don't, just because you turn a claim in doesn't mean you have to have prevent. You turn a claim in for what your situation is right at that moment, and we know that your situation can change 2, 3 to 4, 10 days down the road.
Mm-hmm. Now, the common theme here today, we've talked to Kelly Estes about insects. We've never been here before with the flooding in the western side of the state. We've never seen a lot of what's going on over there. How about for you? You've referenced sort of where we are. You guys haven't been. We haven't. We've had some years, 10 years ago or so, it was wet, and we had several prevent plant claims. I think this year we will have more than we've ever had. It's going to be a challenging year for it, but we have more and better qualified adjusters throughout the entire state. So Country Financial has 100 people ready to go to work for you, and we're ready to service the clients. Thank you so much. So appreciate your time. And again, want to make a reminder, June 13th is that next webinar for any more additional questions that you might have. This is RFD Today. Here's your livestock summary on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Rita Frazier. Drops in corn futures perhaps could provide some support to cattle futures this week, with reports of Brazilian corn coming to the U.S. to compete for business and may continue to affect cattle. Traders believe this will cause longer-term price weakness for the feed grains. Meanwhile, hog traders hope that the GOP Senate shuts down President Trump's idea of implementing tariffs on Mexico, which would preserve Mexico as one of the largest importers of U.S. pork. As we look at the futures trading this morning, we see mixed activity in the lean hog contract. We are down 25 in the July contract, 87.02. August live cattle down to 104.65. Those are your numbers on the RFD Radio Network.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out IllinoisLivestock.com. jake.leonard.org.
Hey, welcome back to RFD Today. Great show here today as we talk about what's going on in the field. And it is summer. We sometimes forget about the other events that are coming up next week. We'll be very excited to head down to Springfield and talk to members of the Illinois FFA. The state convention comes to town. Actually, we'll be at an FFA summit on Monday, and then the full state convention starts in Springfield on Tuesday. Also coming up this month is the Illinois Beef Association Summer Conference. Stacy Lawrence from the IBA office in Springfield joins us. Hey, Stacy.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good. We have a really, really bad connection. I hope that we can hold on to you. You're probably out and about today. Where are you in the state?
Oh, I am actually right in the office today, but I'm on a cell phone, so I'll try and move somewhere that you can hear me.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
That's okay. You're getting a little bit better. Go over the big picture for this year's summer conference.
This year, summer conference will be in Effingham, Illinois. It'll kick off on Tuesday, June 11th. We have a tour scheduled with the Landco over in Clinton, Indiana, so that's an optional tour if people want to go over there. They're going to see how Rumensin is made. And then later that night, we have a president's reception at the winery in Effingham to kind of celebrate Joni's last year of being our president. And then the full IBA Summer Conference kicks off on Wednesday, June 12th with registration, and then we jump into our annual meeting in Cattlemen's College. And then later that night, we have our awards dinner, our award winners this year. And then Thursday, June 13th, is our tour day. So we'll go out to 3 different farms throughout Effingham area.
I'd like to focus in on that awards ceremony. I've been lucky enough to be with you guys for many of those, and that's really the high point to me of a summer conference, recognizing your hardworking members.
Yeah, exactly. It's a time for all of them to come out to the awards banquet, and we recognize them by playing a video that we had captured out on their farm earlier last month. So it's cool to everybody come together and see what accomplishments other farmers in Illinois are doing.
And I don't know how you guys are dividing things up. You have a hardworking staff there, but have you been working on those videos?
No, we outsource the video.
Okay.
So we have a company that does that, but myself and our communications director, Cody Schliff, we went out to several of the videos to kind of help out with all of them. So it was really cool to see. And now we've seen the videos that they came up with. So it's really cool to see it come all together.
Well, we hope, but we can't let the cat out of the bag on those, but we look forward to celebrating with those individuals and families. So how is registration going? And if somebody out there, hey, we know it's been a challenging spring for sure, but if they haven't registered, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can still register. You can go online to our website, illinoisbeef.com, and you can still click on the registration button for the summer conference and go ahead and just get that taken care of. And, yeah, we would love to have you still come out.
You mentioned that it's going to be Joni's last year as president. She has served the last couple of years, and Joni Bucher has done a fantastic job. Will you also have elections during this process?
Yes, yep, that's another big thing that goes to meetings in the morning of June 12th after our 2 speaker sessions, and then we'll immediately go into our IBA annual meeting, and that's where nominations and the nominating committee will come out and give their thoughts on who should be the next president and vice president.
It sounds like a tremendous event. Again, a summer conference, the 11th through the 13th for the Illinois Beef Association. Now, right now, I'm looking at your website. You guys have so much to be proud of. If anyone wants to see what you're doing, some awesome pictures, there's several ways to find out. The website's one of them.
Yep, that is a great tool. We like to kind of put everything towards that, and then also go to our Facebook page. We put a lot out there on that social media platform as well. And one of the benefits of membership is receiving that IBA magazine. When is the next issue coming out? The next issue will be the July-August. So that'll be a really big one with all the stories for the awards winners as well as state fair updates.
Awesome. Stacy, I know you had a lot of work to do. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you sometime next week.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Stacy Lawrence with the Illinois Beef Association. That summer conference, they've chosen the Effingham area, Nick, to spotlight this year. And as we said, it's going to be a tough one. They always kind of struggle with the timing on this because sometimes their beef farmers are out there, making hay or whatever. But this year, and this is what DeLoss would probably ask, and I didn't, but, they also serve a lot of beef.
Well, that's anytime an Illinois Beef Association comes up on our calendar, that's what
you always think of.
Yeah. I'm like, all right. Matter of fact, I had steak last night.
You did?
Yes. Try a new meat shop here in town. Well, they're not new. They're new to me.
And which is what?
College Hills Meats here in Normal.
Okay.
So.
And you cook your steak medium?
Basically, as long as it's not still mooing, I'm cool with the steak.
So you're more of a medium well type of guy.
A medium rare.
Medium rare.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Now, the other thing, you've come through because you're celebrating all kinds of commodities because we've talked about steak. You were celebrating June Dairy Month at Dairy Queen just the other day.
Absolutely. Had a blizzard. And my new wife had a hot pot Sunday.
Oh, your new wife? You've never said that on there.
I know, right? I threw that in.
Hey, we like to celebrate our commodities and our farmers, and we appreciate you joining us on this edition of RFD today. On behalf of the entire RFD radio team, I'm Rita Frazier. More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.